Okay, I was in the process of actually making a different video, but for whatever reason I stopped just to take a little break, and I noticed I had a few comments, and Verveman here, Verveman42, he made like a video response to me, and to my last video about Michael Jordan and the Jordan being the capital of Jordan is actually Philadelphia until 106 AD. But anyway, you can come watch it or whatever. But he's talking about the movie Field of Dreams, and I mean basically he's talking about connections that he has or whatever, like from videos of mine or and whatnot. And I've had that same thing with other people. Like Enter the Stars, like for whatever the reason, his videos always like I don't know. I was always connected to them for whatever the reason. It just weird things happen. You know, I've talked about it multiple times. Tons of weird things happen. Even when I get in my car to go to work, the radio station I listen to is 92.3, like 923. That's Z92. But and I usually leave for work literally at like 9:23 in the morning because I have to be there at 9:45. And it takes a half hour, but I just don't ever want to go to work, so it takes forever. I don't leave. But anyway, he talks about the Field of Dreams here and the scene where he takes Terrence Mann to the baseball game at Fenway Park. Before I even show the clip of when they go to the game, I want to just show something about this movie in general. So the movie came out in 1989. Been talking about this number with the Queen. The Queen is 89. And there have been tons and tons of connections to the Queen, to pretty much everything that I've talked about in the last how many videos. So not going to go that much in depth, just showing you this is about the Queen. 89 is, and the Queen is 89 years old. And so this movie, look when it came out, 4/21/1989. The Queen's birthday is 4/21. So she was 53 years old. And also, it was her 37th year as queen when this movie came out. Even, I've been talking about Obama and the 84, like at 84.4 at the box office. Also, keep in mind, so this is April 21st of 1989. So the World Series wouldn't be until like October or November, depending when the World Series was. I'll pull it up in a minute. I just can't remember the actual date right now, but let's watch this clip then. So this is way before the World Series. And it flashes a bunch of stuff here, and it's hard to pause it. I wonder if there's something hidden in all this, the flashing here. So, but it's hard to see, like all that. I wonder if there's something jumbled up in there that you could read. But basically what happens is he takes this guy to the game, and because he thinks he's supposed to, the ghost or whatever of Shoeless Joe Jackson is like telling him to take this guy to this game. And then he thinks that he's not supposed to after this thing pops up and it says Archibald Moonlight Graham. And then it says New York Giants, 1922, Chisholm, Minnesota. And then James Earl Jones' character, Terrence Mann, he pretends that he doesn't see it. So Kevin Costner thinks that he's got the wrong guy and he needs to go find this guy. But so he writes it down and all that. But this guy was an actual real player, and he really did play for the New York Giants in 1922. But he only played one game. Okay, I just wanted to show this guy here. He really did play for one game for the New York Giants on June 28th, 1905. There's other stuff about him. Like he started with the Charlotte Hornets. And I talked about Charlotte with Princess Charlotte, born on 5/2, and Michael Jordan, who owns the Charlotte Hornets, who is 52. Also interesting here, it says, so he played the one game, and then he went and got his medical degree at the University of Maryland. And Maryland is one of the only two states that adds up to 88, but it also adds up to 34. Now just keep this in mind. So it adds up to 34. And this all has to do with the Civil War. And I mean, I've talked about it in the previous video with the Super Bowl 47, like Joe Flacco adds up to 34. Let's see here. It was when the two Harbaughs coached each other. So like domestic violence, the Civil War. They had the blackout. The game was played on the 34th day of the year. The blackout was 34 minutes. The Ravens, who are actually from Maryland, in Baltimore, they scored 34 points to win. I mean, there's tons of stuff. Abe Lincoln, born on the 43rd day of the year, became president on 3/4. Just tons of stuff. Not even going to go into it, but it's all about the Civil War. Even the word 34, it adds up to 61, and there's a ton of stuff about 61. American Civil War adds up to 161, so keep that in mind. Just tons of stuff. So Obama was born in 61. The Civil War started in 1861, but this guy only played one game. And in Major League Baseball, there's 162 games in the season. So that means that he only played 161. So it's like American Civil War is 161. It's also 16 and 61, like the mirrors, 61 and 61, depending on how you look at it. But Major League Baseball adds up to 162, and they play 162 regular season games. Interesting. Baltimore is also where the Civil War in 1861 started, so Baltimore and Maryland. But anyway, look, so it says Archibald, Moonlight, Graham, Chisholm, whatever. New York Giants 1922. So let's check out the 1922 Giants. The 1922 Giants, they won the World Series in 1922, but they played the Yankees, so it was New York versus New York. It was the previous year they did the same thing. New York and New York played. But, I mean, that's totally... Okay, so this movie came out in 1989, and let's check out the 1989 World Series then. I guess before I do that, I want to point out that the New York Giants are no longer from New York. They're actually in San Francisco now. They moved to San Francisco in the 1958 season. So, interesting that the Giants, that guy played for the 1922 Giants, where the domestic violence here, the two teams played each other. And look at the 1989 World Series then. It was the Oakland Athletics versus the San Francisco Giants. So it was the teams from the same town or whatever, the same area, and they played in the World Series. So they were basically foreshadowing in this movie. They were telling you who was going to be in the World Series. It's so ridiculous. So in 1922, the New York Giants won 4-0. In 1989, the Oakland A's won 4-0. This was also, I did a video on this a while back even, about there was an earthquake in this game. On Game 3, there was, in this World Series, of Game 3, there was an earthquake, and it was like live on TV and whatnot. And this is crazy because it's super significant to everything that I've been talking about for this year. San Francisco adds to 122. We've been talking about the Golden Gate Bridge maybe being destroyed or something. Pope Francis is coming to Philadelphia. Pope Francis adds up to 122. And if you go back and watch my other videos, I explained it a lot more in depth. It makes a lot more sense. But interesting that the Oakland Athletics, and when talking about San Francisco and Philadelphia, they actually used to be in Philadelphia. Even funnier, I've been talking about Kansas City as well, because Kansas City adds up to 122, just like San Francisco, just like Pope Francis. And they played in Philadelphia, and then they played in Kansas City, and then they played in Oakland. And then they end up playing, I mean, it's predicted in this movie. Because remember I said the Queen is 89 years old this year. And then, so in 1989, Field of Dreams came out on the Queen's birthday. So 89 this year. And Zachary K. Hubbard made a video. I must have closed out of it, but he made a video back a couple months ago about how it's the 111th World Series, and the word New York adds up to 111. And he's talking about how there's most likely going to be, there's a whole bunch of other stuff with this, but he's talking about how he thinks it's going to be the Mets versus the Yankees in the World Series this year because New York adds the 111. It's the 111th World Series. And this just makes it make even more sense because they're just going to mirror it or whatever. And it just makes more sense with the whole domestic violence, Civil War type theme that they've been running. So very, 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 very interesting. And if you don't believe me, even more so, look at this. So I said the Queen was in her 37th year as the Queen, and she was 53 years old in 1989. Well, look at this. On the scorecard here that he writes down Moonlight Graham and he writes Chisholm, Minnesota or whatever. Third inning, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 53 is written right there. The Queen was 53 in her 37th year reign as Queen. 3, 7, and 53. Give me a break. And crazier is that the 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And when I was talking about Verve Man, talking about the connections that he has with me or whatever, right here, this number is literally the area code of phone numbers in the town that I live in. Like 643 and then whatever. It's 712-643 and then whatever your number is. Very crazy. And I know I talked about this before, just want to say it again. So 643 is the 117th prime. But I also lived in a town that was 10 miles away called Woodbine, and their area code or whatever is 647. 643 and 647, the 117th and 118th primes. Pretty weird stuff. So in this World Series in '89, they also, like I said, they also had the earthquake and whatnot, and I'll show you some footage of it. But the game was played on October 27th, and a day I've talked about a lot with this year or whatever. That is the last day of Back to the Future. That's where the third movie actually ends, as he goes back to October 27th. And I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but so October 27th, it was also 1985. And in 1985, that was the Queen's 33rd year reign as Queen. And there is, if you watch this here, so it says the time in the game was 3:03. You take out the 0, 33. Also, let's just watch the footage of the earthquake. So this is actually just footage from the previous games that they're showing. Just listen to what they say.
Back in the National League Park. Let me turn now to Tim McCarver. You know, Tim, we talked in Game 1. The final score was 5-0, but there was a key early play involving Terry Kennedy dropping a throw from Will Clark at the plate. We go back to Game 2. The score was 5-1, but there were two key plays early in that one as well.
Well, you don't often think of key plays in a 5-1 ball game, but let's go back to the top of the third inning. Will Clark.
So they mentioned 5-1. I don't know how many, like 3 times. The word conspiracy adds up to 51, like 5-1. So interesting. Then they go to this clip, and I'm not going to play the sound, but look, top of the third, Game 2, number 22 hits the ball. A 3-2 count. I mean, so they had 3-2, then it was a 3-2 count. And then check this out. Look at the 330. 330 or 33. That's also the day that Queen Elizabeth's mom died. And then 33 comes running in and scores. And then the earthquake happens. They show 33, and then the earthquake happens. Give me a break. There's also 31 surrounding this a lot. And I know it's because 1931 was 84 years ago, and 1984 was 31 years ago. And that all goes with like LeBron James, and Obama was born on 8/4, and tons of stuff. But look, the game was supposed to start at 5:35, but there was an earthquake at 5:04, so the game got postponed or whatever. But that's a span. The earthquake was 31 minutes before the game was supposed to start. And this movie came out, or the box office was 84.4. Like James Earl Jones, he was born or he's age 84, born on 117. So James Earl Jones, born on 117, 1931, or which is also 84 years ago. So he's 84. But Field of Dreams, if you add up Field of Dreams, it adds up to 117. January 17th, 117. It also adds up to 63, which this year is the Queen's 63rd year as Queen. I also just found it interesting. I just talked about the area code where I live is 643, and it's the 117th prime that they have written on that scorecard. Even says, so the baseball field is it's a farm near Dyersville. And Dyersville adds up to 131, like 31 and 31. And this real place, the Field of Dreams in Iowa, it says that all these dimensions of the field, and then it says it holds 84 people. Interesting. 84 people. Weird number. And since it has to do with San Francisco, I just want to pull this back up. The NBA Finals this year that the Golden State Warriors won 122 days after Valentine's. I've talked about how Valentine's, it all goes back to Valentine's or whatever. But 122 days after Valentine's, Golden State adds up to 122. They play in the San Francisco Bay Area. That adds up to 122. And it looked like they weren't going to win the series whatsoever, the NBA Finals. But in Game 4, they put in Andre Iguodala as a starter. And he's also, well, hold on. They put him in, and that's when they started doing good. He ended up being the NBA MVP, finals MVP. But the game that he came in on was June 11th, or 6/11. And the 6th prime number is 13, and the 11th prime number is 31. Also, like Iguodala, I believe he's going to be 31 or is 31. Yeah. Born in 84, is 31. And he came in and started guarding LeBron James. And before I do that, I want to point out that he was actually drafted by the Philadelphia 76ers. The 76ers Philadelphia used to be the Philadelphia Warriors. Then he ended up getting traded to the Warriors in a roundabout way. So he went from Philadelphia to the Nuggets to the Warriors. And then, yeah, I mean, self-explanatory, isn't it? He was number 9. So let's check out LeBron James. LeBron James was also born in 1984, and he will be 31 this year. But LeBron is number 23. So interesting. You had the 9, 23, and Iguodala comes in, and that's when the Golden State Warriors started their comeback. Also, the Giants won the World Series last year, too. The 110th World Series. And it all goes back to the Queen. And look, the Queen is 89 years old this year. Her birthday's on 4/21. And 4/21 to August 9th, which is 8/9, is 110 days. I mean, it's just really weird. I've done videos. I did a video not that long ago on Annie. And the Can't Buy Me Love girl who just died at age 43 got her start in Annie. And this all has to do with Batavia, Illinois, and their particle accelerator or whatever it was, the Hadron Collider that they had there. Just interesting. I made a video about that. Also, I made a video a long time ago about the Black Sox scandal and how it was rigged and everything. Oh, yeah, that was back when I didn't know as much for sure, but there was a lot of 88 stuff with the Black Sox scandal. Who knows? I mean, there's even the book 8 Men Out, or the movie 8 Men Out even, that came out in 1988. But I'm just going to leave it at that. Wasn't even really planning on doing this video, but definitely interesting. I think that explains it enough that they predicted the World Series. I'm assuming they predicted the World Series again this year just because of that. Maybe, who knows? I mean, if you look at the standings, and as I was going here, I was going to look at the standings, and I'm going to go there. But I guess It says the Dodgers Nationals suspended after 3 power outages. Can't even say outages. There we go. Interesting, because I just talked about the Eiffel Tower in that one video, and I said I don't think any of that will happen, blah, blah, blah. No, there's 3 power outages at a baseball game. Craziness. And then I just made the video about the power going out at the football game, the World Series in Super Bowl 47. Well, let's look at the standings here. Sorry. The Yankees have 49 wins. They're winning their division here. Let's see, 49. Kansas City has 53. The Mets have 47. So I mean, they're both in the running to be able to play each other. So very interesting. But I guess we'll see how it plays out, and just gonna leave it at that. So have a great night. Okay, and I'm sorry, I have to show this. I looked at this right before I'm gonna finish this video, and there was 3 power outages, and the initial delay struck during the bottom of the 4th inning, and it lasted 1 hour and 22 minutes. Give me a break. 122. Pope Francis, San Francisco, talked about it. Even I've never seen anything like it before. National starter Jordan Zimmerman said, just made a video on Michael Jordan and the Jordan stuff again. I mean, telling you, I see it every day. There's Jordan. So whatever. Leaving it at that. I'm not lying now, so have a great night.